Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today, we're discussing a watch that is decorated. This watch, the Greubel Forsey Tourbillon 24-second Vision, won the GPHG alligator back in 2015, effectively the best watch of the year at a competition that is called the Oscars of Watchmaking. So this was effectively Best Picture at the Oscars of Watchmaking. It is a wearable Greubel Forsey, being 13.4 millimeters thick by 43.5 millimeters in diameter, and from lug tip to lug tip, it measures 51.6 millimeters with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. I will clarify that. The way it wears is 13.4. This is 13.4. It does have a bulge on the case back to allow you to see the tourbillon from the underside. Measured from that point to the upper crystal, it's 16.2, but don't think it wears that way, and I'll show you on the wrist why it doesn't. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, flat across the top. I can wear this watch. I don't think you'd want to wear this watch on a wrist much smaller than mine, so 16 centimeters circumference is fine. Just be advised, you can go up from there, but not down. Take a quick look down the barrel, over the top. Now, the cuff shot. You can see the watch wears thin. Take a look at that little bulb on the bottom. When the watch is actually strapped down with tension in the strap to fit your wrist, it's going to nestle in and sit low. So don't think of this as a 16 millimeter thick watch. Think of it as just over 13, because that's how it wears. It has a sloped and domed bezel, so it should slide easily underneath most cuffs. The strap is large rectangular scale alligator leather with large and symmetrical scales, so this is a very expensive cut. You can see it's a thick cut bolstered at its base to give some volume. We have a rolled edge with a folded seam and then a monotone stitch on the bottom. You can see brand new Greubel Forsey factory strap, calfskin on the bottom, hand cut, hand sewn, and a Greubel Forsey buckle. Now you can see that the buckle has a combination of satin and polish, so even these small elements have not been overlooked by the designers in La Chaux de Fonds. Taking a quick look at the case, this is probably the most underrated aspect of Greubel Forsey design. The case is fairly nuanced. It has vertical satination along the case band rather than the more common longitudinal. You can see that the case back and polish and the bezel and polish are visually distinct from the mid case, and the lugs at each end are visually distinct from the case. They have a welded profile, and you can see it's that sort of look you get when you weld a lug to a case and then remove the gathered material to create a sharp break between them. This is done on the best cases, and at Greubel Forsey, thanks to low volume, they don't have to worry about mass production techniques, so this kind of welding can take place, allowing that sharp break between the two surfaces, but also the double finishing with one being polished and one being satin. You can also see that there's a little bit of an inward concave profile here. It's not just a sheer side, it has an outward kick as it flares at its end, so this subtlety is often lost in the soldier shots of the watch online. Now we have a Greubel Forsey crown. All this, of course, is white gold, and it's gray gold. It's the good stuff. It's white all the way through and never needs to be rhodium plated. You can see underneath the dial, which is itself made of gold and blue, I should say navy blue printed. We have a tourbillon that makes one circuit every 24 seconds. So the point of this manic tourbillon is to counteract the effects of gravity on the watch, but just to ensure that it does that more efficiently, it's also inclined, not at 30 degrees like the double tourbillon, but at 25 degrees here. Now, because the tourbillon doesn't actually act as a seconds hand, it's too fast for that. The watch does have a conventional constant seconds hand over at 4 o'clock, and then we have these wonderful fire oxidized hands with polished centers and a polished cannon pinion. Now, you can see that the upper bridge for the tourbillon is extravagantly black polished steel, with several interior angles at its center flanking the chaton used to fix the upper pivot of the tourbillon. In fact, we have two golden chatons, a nod to the way that pocket watches were made in La Chaux de Fonds long before Greubel Forsey and its manufacturer came along. Getting as close as we can. In fact, we may as well just get really close through the back because it's easier to see. But the tourbillon has an elaborate bridge on its underside, just as it has an elaborate bridge on its top side. Notice that the tourbillon bridge, top and bottom, completely rounded and black polished, not just black polished. The tourbillon cage is immensely artisanal, and while it is definitely a computer-assisted design, all of the finishing here, after CNC milling. All of the finishing and the final fitting is done manually. So this is very much artisanal construction. It's free sprung, adjusted in 6 positions, and it has both an inner and outer coil, or I should say overcoil to the hairspring. You can see one of them on the top. So it has 2 overcoils to center the mass of the hairspring more perfectly. On the reverse of the watch, we have a white gold scale for the power reserve indicator, manual wind. This is a 72-hour power reserve. It beats sway at 21,600 vibrations per hour. You can see stacked barrels. Once again, we have these golden chaton for pivots. The watch is part of a 22-piece limited edition, and this specific example right here was sold in 2016. So this is a 22-piece limited edition. Wonderful visibility of the tourbillon from the underside. You can see that the bridges, they're made of what would be called German silver if this was a Lange, but since we are in Switzerland and the French-speaking watch regions, we'll call it Maillot, which would be the regional term for it. And the frosting is achieved using stiff bristled wire brushes. You can also see that the beveling is world-class and second to none, including the sharpness and depth of the interior angles. The beveling is a mile wide. This is the real thing, finished up with gentian wood or the equivalent. Absolutely breathtaking, along with enormous fire-blued screws. Look carefully, and you can see that we have both black polished and fire blued screws here. All of this water resistant down to 30 meters. That's more academic than anything else. Please don't attempt to take it swimming. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this award-winning Greubel Forsey Tourbillon 24 Secondes Vision.